Thanks everyone for dialing in today. I'm going to talk about Inspire English International and new Key Stage 3 English programme, give you a quick overview and take a close look at how we can engage students at home as well. I hope what we go through today will be useful and interesting. And if you do have any questions, as Christian said, we're happy to answer them at the end of the session. Okay, with no further ado, we're going to have a quick overview of the course component, look at what's different, a slightly more in-depth look at each of the individual components so you know what they look like and how you can use them with students, and then at the end a specific session about distance teaching. Okay, so first up, Inspire English International is our new academic English programme for schools covering Key Stage 3. That's ages 11 to 14, the years before GCSE. It provides complete coverage of the English National Curriculum and the Lower Secondary English Curriculum as well. Each year has a student book, a teacher guide, and a writing workbook that work together, as well as digital components. Okay, so what's different? So we'd like to think it's engaging. Relevant texts and authors are taken from a range of contexts written with cultural sensitivities in mind. It's new. It matches the latest English National Curriculum and the Lower Secondary Curriculum. It's comprehensive. It provides you with a consistent and easily tracked progression over the key years leading up to GCSE or International GCSE. And finally, it's supportive. It provides everything teachers and students need to master the subject and be confident in their teaching and learning. So have a really quick look at the student books themselves now. So each student book provides a clear structure. Units are based around theme, and each unit uses a range of engaging real-world texts to help students focus on the mastery of key skills. You can see here on Unit 2, the key skills are set out at the start of each unit, along with a clear explanation of what students will be able to do at the end of that unit. We've done that so that students can really understand what the point of the learning is, and so that they know what they're expected to achieve by the end of it. Then within each unit, that theme is then broken down into sections where each of these lines here is an individual section and designed to help students master the key skills and a clear learning progression. Every activity in every section explicitly focuses on one specific aspect or skill found in or prompted by those texts I spoke about earlier. An appropriate level of support is then also provided in activities to help sharpen the skill focus. For example, sentence starters or frames might be provided to support students in expressing their response. Relevant vocabulary might be provided to allow students to focus on crafting sentence structure without being distracted by the need to select their own. Likewise, appropriate information might be provided to support the skill of structuring an information text without students have to overcome the distraction of gathering that information beforehand. And then at the end of each section, students have the structured opportunity to demonstrate and further develop their skills through assessments. The teacher guide also further supports this by frequently identifying opportunities for students to peer assess their achievement in these final activities. Then the specific assessment sections within each unit provide further structured opportunities to draw together the skills that they've learned so far to a single outcome. And then at the end of the book, there's a glossary gathering together the key terms identified across all the years of the course, along with clear definitions. The same glossary is also provided in the workbooks and teacher guides. Okay, and a really quick look at the workbooks, because we're going to move on to the digital quickly and focus on that. So the workbooks give students the chance to practice and embed the key skills introduced in the student book and through teaching. They help deepen and broaden students' understanding of the learning with clear links to the corresponding learning in the student book. You can see here they cover the same units and the same topics and just provide a chance to go a little bit deeper. And then within the workbooks, extension activities within each section provide further practice of the key skills covered. A chance to apply the learning, answer focused questions mean students grasp key concepts more readily. We provide structure and prompt to help them focus on the key objective of each unit, rather than be distracted by things like having to create their own writing frames or tables, or find information where that's not the point of the lesson. And then in the workbooks, there's further opportunities for assessment as well. Assessment sections explain clearly how to construct and improve a response and give students the chance to put this into practice. You can see they're presented with a real test text and real question. They're taken through a sample answer and the steps needed to understand and improve that response. Once they understand the techniques and skills needed, they put this into practice themselves. Okay, the teacher guides. The teacher guides provide lesson-by-lesson planning linked closely to the student book and workbook. Each unit or lesson within the workbook and within the student book has a planning page dedicated to it within the teacher guide. Mapping at the start of the book demonstrates how the ILO secondary objectives relate to the English National Curriculum. And then the scheme of work at the start of each book gives an overview of each unit and the main focuses. This teaching and learning progression is provided as an at-a-glance overview, and key skills and objectives covered in the unit are recorded, as are expected outcomes. Each individual lesson goes into a lot more detail. It has clear references to the skills, the curriculum coverage, the outcomes, and the links to the student book and the workbook. There's a clear and consistent structure and progression in each lesson, with indicative timings and clear notes to help support you with your own teaching. We then provide further support and deepen activities to support differentiation and ensure you can access the content at multiple levels. Okay, so we're going to have a quick look at the digital now, because if you sign up for the online trial, this is what you'll have access to. And the digital includes an Active Learn subscription, individual ebooks, and then a host of features within each. So let's have a quick look. Okay, so let's start with the.
Oh, Kevin, just to stop you, it's not switched over to the other screen. You probably have to exit the presentation.
How about now?
There you go, that's better.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. Okay, so let's start off really quickly. We'll have a look at the teacher guides, the workbooks, and then the student book, which is really the richest material. So the online teacher guides are really just online versions of the print books for you to access and use to support your planning. So they have all of the features we've already spoken about, with slight more digital usage. So things like hot links from the contents page, you'll click and go straight to those units. And then the same within the scheme of work as well. Clicking will take you to the start of that teaching. And then looking at the individual lesson planning, you can see the detail we spoke about earlier with the main objectives, the secondary objectives, and the links here to the student book and workbook pages. Clicking here will link across so you can see the pages that the students are expected to work on. You could also use this in remote teaching to link to those pages to show your screen and share a point as well. Just make sure you do show your screen, unlike what I just tried to do. The workbooks are also available online, and you're able to share these books with students as well. So the workbooks are writing components. Let's have a look at one of those. It's opened halfway through. I must have been reading it earlier. Okay, so the workbooks, again, link to the student book and the teacher guide. Although these pages are PDFs, Adobe files, they are printable, so your students can use these, or they could use them as a frame to write on separate paper. And they link directly to the student book as well. So if a student were to click here or you were to click here, it would then link you to the relevant pages of the student book. So you can see the information that's been taught in the lesson or is being referred to as well. And then the key digital component is probably the student book itself. So I've loaded one of the student books here in advance, but you have all access to these and can send them out to your students as well. This is the Year 8 student book. Again, it's got everything you'd expect from a basic ebook. It has hot links from individual units and hot links to individual pages in the contents. The contents page provides a bit more information about what you need to know. And then within the lessons themselves, again, it's got a lot of things you'd expect to see in an ebook. So you're able to bring up sections and zoom in, and you can share a text and you can talk to your students about this text with it on the screen. And then if if you wanted to rest your voice as well, all of the extended texts have the option to be read out by a native English speaker. So unfortunately that doesn't work via webinar, but when you have access yourself, if you just click next to any of the longer texts, you can hear them read aloud. And that's true for every text in every book. You're then able to zoom further into individual activities or sections when you're discussing them with students. And then to avoid having to flick back and forth between pages and the back of a book, you're also able to highlight any technical terms and bring up an on-page definition as well. Okay, so there might be some questions about that at the end, but I'm just going to go back to the presentation now. And we're going to go back to the core idea, which was engaging students at a distance. Okay, so obviously there's been lots of changes for us all in the last few weeks, and nobody really knows how long these changes will go on for. So we've spoken with the author of Inspire English, and we've spoken with other teachers we know as well, and we've come up with a few ideas that we think will help when it comes to engaging students at a distance, using Inspire English, but really using any course or program you want to use as well. So the first thing is the importance of rules. So even if you're teaching live, you're managing a virtual classroom, or working one-to-one via phone or video link, have a clear plan and set clear rules from the outset. It's still your classroom, and students will appreciate knowing the expectations there. So some of the things to think about are how to minimize distraction, checking that all students have switched off their phone, unless they're using their phone for the lesson, and found a quiet space where their little sister can't wander in and start chatting to them or the rest of the class. Think about how you'll know when a learner wants to contribute or ask a question. Either have, in some online teaching, a raise hand feature or a chat feature, or think about leaving time for questions within your teaching as you go through. Will students have the opportunity to unmute their microphone at will, or will you control that aspect of the classroom? And so on. Setting the rules and the expectations at the start will make a huge difference. And remember, a lot of the issues you're dealing with are exactly the same issues you face every day in the classroom, only the solutions might be slightly different. Okay, so the next thing to think about is preparation and ensuring a smooth running lesson. Give students as much help as possible before the lesson. I've created a list of things you might want to think about there. So it might be emailing relevant lesson materials, the text you're focusing on, the worksheet, even an outline of what will be covered in the lesson so they know what's coming next and what they're going to be expected to do. If they have access to these digitally in a course like Inspire, then still let them know in advance what they'll be looking at so they can make sure that their technology is working, they're able to access the files they need, and they're in the right place at the right time, rather than having to solve technical issues during your lesson. and make those expectations really clear that you do expect them to have accessed and loaded resources before the lesson. You might consider, if you don't have a digital program like Inspire, setting up an online resource hub like a Google Drive or a OneDrive, where students can share and access materials. And then you get onto the learning itself. Okay. Use any and all appropriate resources. Inspire English, for example, is full of short, structured activities that are perfect for online learning. But be aware you might need to adapt lesson planning to the strange new environment in which you and your students are working. The real challenge of online distance learning is to keep the material creative, engaging, and interactive, and to take advantage of this potentially difficult situation. And know what you're using. Know the technology and experiment with the platform with your friends and family before using it. The best place to experience technical issues is at home in the evening with a loved one, rather than online with your students. And be aware when we're setting up lessons, an hour is a long time to stare at one screen. Unless we really work at it, they're not likely to have the same level of interactivity as they are in the classroom. But there's lots of opportunities to take advantage of screen time. And each one gives students a change of scene. Students on screen have ready access to a whole internet full of reference and research tools, online dictionary, thesauruses, encyclopedia. Take advantage of that, whether it's asking them to gather synonyms or definitions or factual information. If you're working on narrative or descriptive writing, get students to find an image online, or look around the room in which they're sitting, or through the nearest window, or deep into their mind's eye to gather ideas. Get them to note them down with a pen, not necessarily on the computer. After a few minutes away from the screen, or even looking at a different screen, given a focused task like this, they'll return refreshed and ready to concentrate. And keep it moving. Above all, keep the pace of the lesson swift. Give students a variety of shorter, focused activities in every lesson. A course like Inspire does ensure a range of focused activities to choose from, but you can go through here and you can see it's split down into small bite-sized chunks with clear instructions in each case. But whatever you choose to use, do try to include a range of listening, reading, short answer writing, and extended writing in lessons, even some drawing to help visualize character or setting when you can't necessarily give every student the attention you would in the classroom. And where possible, use worksheets, for example, the workbooks of Inspire, to provide students with templates for the tasks you're asking them to complete. If necessary, provide them with things like a blank spidergram or table or chart or writing frame, rather than losing valuable minutes and concentration and pace by asking students to draw their own. We all know students will do that at such a variable pace and get distracted so easily from the main task itself. And make expectations clear. Any but the most straightforward tasks should be displayed on screen. It's much easier for students to read and reread instructions than try to remember what we've said online. Instructions should be crystal clear and supportive. I'm using Inspire English as our example here, but I think the same ideas apply whatever you choose to use. Use imperatives for the objective. Look carefully. Give 2 descriptions. Clear and precise instructions are important. If you want to introduce you could use you must for key elements. So you must select quotations from a text. Use things like you could to push more confident students. You could comment on writers' vocabulary choices, but make it crystal clear exactly what you expect. You expect 3 sentences, 5 paragraphs. Keep tasks short and structured by breaking them down into numbered and clearly defined stages with self-evident success criteria. Avoid indefinite articles. You don't want students to note some adjectives they could use to describe a character, for example. You want 5. You don't want them to note some impressions the writer's given them. You want them to note 3 impressions, one about their behavior, one about their appearance, and one about their relationship with the other characters. And keep it focused. Remember, there's a whole class out there. Thinking about keeping things tightly structured, try to avoid completely open questions. Don't set a task like write 1 or 2 paragraphs implying your thoughts and feelings, or ask questions like, what is your impression of Uncle Jess? You'll get such a range of answers from students working online. It will tend towards being almost unmanageable. Instead, provide structured, guided questions or support. What impression is the writer trying to create of Uncle Jess? Keep it tight. Choose one quotation that shows what impression the writer is trying to create of the place where they live. Provide structure and support for extended writing. Help to structure imagination, structure planning, and structure the writing itself. Give students the tools they need to succeed. And it's good to talk. Clear structuring of tasks is important, but above all, you want to create the kind of pace and quality of learning to suggest that any student whose attention drifts for a couple of minutes will have missed something good. But obviously not moving so quickly you leave any student behind. Before, during, and after each task, interact verbally with as many individual students as you can. It helps keep them focused and know that you're listening and you're listening to them. But working together but apart, it's vital to maintain a sense of contact and connection that we have in the classroom, but we might miss digitally. And then I know that some teachers might not, of course, have access to the kind of technology that allows live lessons online and are having to rely on email exchanges. In which case, the principles of pace, variety, and structure in resources and instructions are even more important. But 1 or 2 adjustments to the live teaching method can add valuable support for students. Provide opportunities for self-assessment that can support and reassure students. For example, check that you've included all, or a given number, of these keywords or key features in your response. So you're providing that structure to them and the clear expectations. Provide them a route for help. Offer an email helpline with clear opening times where you'll read and respond. And as short as feasible response time promise so students can check that on the right lines. And finally, offer students an opportunity to review the materials you sent them. What was unclear? What could have made it clearer? The result is hopefully that you and your students' irritation with this means of communication are reduced, and students feel that you have a valuable role in supporting them. However, and wherever you teach, the principles of good teaching, clarity, engagement, structure, interaction, assessment, and evaluation remain. But whether your relationship with your students is relying on seeing faces on a screen or words in an email, try to be personal and keep the human touch. Don't let the technology and the distance divide you. You might even find that the shared triumph of overcoming the hurdles of distance learning brings you closer. For more information on the support we can offer in distance learning and with any of the challenges we face in education, please see our website there. Thank you.